Good evening, everybody. Like we just mentioned, the topic for the panel discussion today is embracing people transformation and innovation in the chemical sector. But before we get started, let me introduce the panel members today. We have Mr. Samir Somaya on the right side, who is the chairman and managing director of Godavari Biorefineries, a company which is actually pioneering the transition to sustainability in the country. By doing ethanol, chemicals, renewable energy through biomass, and he's also executive committee member of ICC. Next, we have Mr. Prakash Raman, who is the managing director of Silox India, a global leader in sodium formaldehyde sulfoxonate. Mr. Prakash comes with more than 30 years of experience in management roles in the chemicals industry. We have Mr. Ajay Shah on my right here, who is the president of the polymer chain business at Reliance Industries. And Mr. Ajay, you have more than 40 years of experience, almost veteran in this space. On my left, we have Mr. Anand Srinivasan, who is the managing director and head of engineering plastics, Covestro India. And finally, to my extreme left, we have Mr. Vikram Singhal, who is the president of Gulbranson's Technology, and he's also a member of ICC's Executive Council and is heading the Nice Globe initiative. So thank you, all of you, for joining me here for this panel. All of us who have gathered here today, right, we are all, very bullish about the growth potential of chemical sector in India, right? Since morning, we've been discussing, opportunities, unlocks, and various possibilities for this industry to get to in the next decade, right? One of the very important pillar, right, to drive this growth is going to be the people pillar, right, which is the talent and talent across the board, right, be it the blue collar employees, the white collar employees, the R&D talent, the process engineers, and so on and so forth, right? Talent across the board is going to play a very, very critical role in actually making this growth happen, right? We crunched some numbers at McKinsey. We love crunching numbers, right? And one of the things we realized was that as per the current trajectory, we will fall short of almost 8 to 10 lakh skilled laborers in the chemicals, manufacturing plant over the next decade, right? And almost, 8 to 10,000, talented, skilled employees in the chemical sector will be short of in the next decade, right? So the topic that we've picked up for this panel is how do we address this challenge head on as we prepare for the next wave of growth, right? So in that context, my first question is to you, Mr. Samir. What is your view on the talent in the chemicals industry? Are you already seeing certain gaps in the talent? Are there specific areas where you're seeing gap in talent? And any learnings in terms of how do we address this proactively?
No, I personally think if you set out to get the talent, you get it. And if you believe in the people you hire and you give that belief to them, they will deliver what you expect of them and more. So, it's one thing to say whether they're industry ready or not, or statements, and maybe they may not be, but they will be in time. I'm not sure how industry ready I was when I started working. I think there may be a time in which you bring on board people, you choose them well, you onboard them, and then you believe in them. And whatever are the gaps, you fill them and you grow them. So I think, we are a young country. We have enormous talent, enormous aspiration, and a fundamental belief in, or a fundamental devotion to knowledge. And I think in that, we are very well placed. We need to believe in ourselves and our whole system.
Just building on that point, right? Attracting and grooming young talent is going to be very important, like you mentioned. And we as an industry actually compete with a lot of other industries when it comes to the fresh, the fresh talent. And as we all know, right, the first preference is tech companies because it's just more attractive to work for a Google or a Facebook, right? You know, one thing we notice at McKinsey also is that the younger colleagues, they get really excited when you hear sustainability, digital innovation, and so on, right? And your organization has been leading, you know, the whole story around sustainability. So any learnings on how do you really win that young talent and retain that young talent?
So if I speak from an education provider's point of view, since I run a large education institution, I think there is tremendous talent there, and we just need to have a better bridge between education and industry. And there are plenty of students who find science a very exciting place to work. We just have to create better bridges.
Thank you. Thank you. I think my next question is to you, Mr. Prakash. We are also talking about innovation, right? And as we look at stats, Indian companies spend less than 1% in R&D in India, while globally this number is anywhere between 3, 5, 8, depending on, you know, what type of sector you're in. What, in your opinion, would be the role of innovation and R&D to really drive this growth aspiration of Indian chemical sector? And in that context, any learnings around attracting talent, how to go towards R&D?
Sure. First of all, let me be a little bit practical in the sense like, one, I think first of all, the industry need to understand that it has a certain limitation, not only in India, elsewhere, especially the chemical industry. Because there is a fundamental issue in terms of attracting the best talent coming into the chemical industry. Because there is an image associated with the chemical industry like that. First of all, we need to accept that there is an issue that industry need to bridge if you want to continue to attract the best talent coming into the industry. Okay, there is a role of the industry, which is key, and also there is a fundamental understanding about the chemical industry. Just see about the image of the chemical industry. It's not only in India, it's true all elsewhere in the world. Okay, but only the degree varies. So there is a bit of work we need to do if you want to continue to attract the best talents, first. And second, like in terms of R&D and innovation, okay, so I would say like, yes, in general, including our company, like our investment into the R&D, the fundamental R&D is way below the industry benchmark or the global standards. There are many companies, like there are some of them are spending really high, but most of them will continue to spend much less. Okay. What I think of is one is like we are mostly oriented in terms of what I call not the fundamental R&D in terms of fixing the issue, what currently matters today or in the short term. So that fundamental thinking need to change. Okay, we need to start addressing the problem and start investing more on short, medium, and long-term focus. And if you talk about especially the MNC, like there is always a challenge in terms of how can we enhance the R&D, because everybody understands India produces humongous number of PhDs, MSCs, and excellent talent available, but are we really tapping the potential of the country? Because we always talk about some of the strength, like in terms of the numbers, okay? There are certain fundamental facts which we need to satisfy if we are still in European countries or the American, if you want to make R&D, if you are successful here. First and foremost is to build the trust. Whenever you go with the R&D project, there is a lack of trust. I think it fundamentally getting into the IPR, intellectual property right. If I develop something here, is my intellectual property going to be safe? Is it something like which I can enforce it across the world? Sometimes yes, sometimes no, but still very clearly we are not established that level of trust. Once we start addressing this fundamental point, and it is like a priming the pump, huh? Like if you address and develop one product to make it a success, I think automatically the other things will be much faster. So I would say like in terms of not only fixing the talent, we need to fix a certain system way of working. Our people orientation towards like maybe for example the compliance standards, people orientation towards the safety standards, okay? There is a lot of amount of work to do. Okay, so if we start addressing this, like we will be able to make much more impact in terms of innovation, not only in the product, in the services, and also the end use, which will become much more visible and prominent. Because today, if you see, most of the success of the Indian chemical industry is more in terms of the manufacturing or marketing of the product, not that much into the fundamental research and innovation. So there is a huge scope for us to improve, and there is untapped potential. But we need to address certain fundamental issues. The first and foremost thing is we need to accept that these are the gaps. Then we can start addressing it.
Very refreshing thoughts, Mr. Prakash, and fully agree, right? I think the starting has to be to accept that there is a gap, then only we can work towards it. Mr. Ajay, my next question is for you. I think on similar lines, what is your thought on the role of R&D and innovation in the industry, and how do we attract the talent to really fuel that? Be good to hear your thoughts on the same.
So I will voice or echo what Mr. Prakash said, that first I think we have to accept that in general, our industry is not looked at or looked upon by the youngsters or the people graduating as an exciting or an industry in which we want to participate and make a career in. So that is one thing that we need to sort of publicize ourselves, project ourselves, and create a very, very positive image about this industry in general. I think the basic fundamental knowledge or education with the people is there, but it is how we are going to attract that knowledge into the chemical space is, I think, our biggest challenge. And if we can address that positively, I'm sure with time, we will be able to attract talent in a much better fashion than what we are doing today. And for that, I think also our safety record, our sustainability record, and I think in general, what society is looking at today and what we've talked about, I think a lot in the morning, is important to portray in the right fashion. And if we can do that, I'm sure we can get talent. And in terms of research or innovation, I would again say there are very many institutes who are capable of delivering that. And I don't think in terms of education, there is any dearth in this country of people to find the education level that the industry is looking for. But to try and attract them towards us rather than any other industry would be the real challenge that we have to take up.
Makes a lot of sense, right? And goes back to the point on how do we really communicate, what do we do as chemicals industry better, right, to the younger colleagues. I think moving on to you, Mr. Anand, and building on this theme, right? The academic institutes in general play a very, very critical role in building talent, empowering innovation, right? Do you have any views on how to strengthen the collaboration between, say, academic institutes and industry? Anything you've seen working well, or any thoughts on that dimension?
Sure. Before I answer the question, how many of us in this room actually talk chemistry to our families and friends? Can I see some hands up? Actual talk chemistry. Come on, some more hands this side. No chemistry. Okay. Just like what Prakash and Mr. Ajay mentioned, I think it has to start at the root somewhere. Yeah, we're missing it. We missed the boat, but we do have super talent. So to answer your question, let's look at the West. Yeah, I mean, I did my master's. There's so many here who've been educated in the US and Germany. I still don't see that curriculum within India where they have an actual mandatory 30-40% of their work that has to be done in the industry. I'm not talking about an internship. I'm not talking about this co-op or something where a young talent just comes and helps you with some Excel spreadsheet. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about actual projects which these smart guys and girls actually have in their head, and that doesn't reach us. Yeah, are we brave as an industry to actually host these guys? We're talking sustainability, we're talking net zero, neutrality, safety. Are we brave enough to host these guys and say, come run your project here with me? I'm confident that your idea will work and I give you space. I think this change has to happen. It's happened in the West, it's successful. We all did our projects, masters, PhDs in actual industries. We didn't sit in front of a laptop and do it. We went to the industry and actually did it there. So this is something which academia has to put into place for the chemical space. And there I think the ICC, all of us we are ICC, right? ICC is not a panel of guys sitting with Shodhi and everybody else. It's us who's ICC. I think we have to do something about this in our own spaces and start hosting this. We've started at Covestro, we've started at a small scale, but it's not easy. It's not easy. It's very difficult, but we have to do this. So pushing academia to force them to have these kind of curriculums where they come to us and live with us for quite some time is a starting point. That's my thought. Yeah, thanks.
Makes a lot of sense. And yeah, I mean, the success is there in West. We have to bring it to India. Absolutely. Moving to you, Mr. Vikram. A large part of innovation, actually happens at the shop floor, right, in the chemicals industry. And in that context, we've spoken a lot about attracting young talent, collaborating with the academy and so on. What do we do to really upskill or build the skill set of the future for people at the shop floor? Any thoughts, any reflections on that?
Sure. I think I echo my fellow panelists when they say finding talent, finding the right talent with the right thought process is the biggest challenge in the shop floor, and especially for a chemical company. I'll tell you, when you try to go out and recruit talent to work for you, especially in the innovation space, they're not interested. They want to go and work for pharma, which is more sexy. Good, talented people will opt for doing IT or any other consulting work where it makes, it's much easier, better for them. The chemical industry is not considered as a place of preference to work for. So this is a big challenge. And Samir, with all due respect, we can groom and everybody, but the time is not there many a times. So how much time does it take? And once you groom somebody, they think about leaving, and they leave your organization. So that paradox is always there, and that's the biggest challenge that we face as a chemical organization. One thing that I think we have been doing, trying to solve this, is we have decided to take 5 to 10% in every function, including R&D everywhere. We take freshers, and they are our, like in IT industry, you have the bench. So we keep these people as bench, and they're trained on work, filling up for somebody who is not available, and so they keep on getting trained. And that way, we end up hiring probably about 10% of these people. Those are good people, we give them an offer and they stay back. But then the rest of the people who don't, we think that we have given them a platform, they can seek a job somewhere else. So that's one thing that we have done, and it's helped us a lot in the last 3-4 years, I would say, that we have started this activity. That's helped us a lot. And I must say one thing from the education perspective, as Anand said, there's having that practical knowledge, having that understanding of what really needs to be done on the shop floor is not readily available with our freshers when they come to work. So the time taken for them to ramp up, so we have operations in countries outside India also, and there we see where the people, when we employ people, it doesn't take very long for them to do their job, whatever they are told. The SOPs are there, the training protocols, everything is there. But in India, that training takes a little bit more time. And it all depends on the individual. Some individuals have better acumen, they have better attitude, they want to learn faster, they adapt. But most, I would say, I'm sorry to say that, do not have that thought process. And according to me, that thought process has to be inculcated when you are being educated from your childhood. And unfortunately, our education system, I think a lot of people will berate me for saying this, but I firmly believe that our education system does not support free thinking, innovative thinking, and thinking out of the box. Our education system forces us to adhere to a curriculum, to a process, and to a certain set protocol of writing a answer sheet. And that's what is given credence over your proclivity, your ability to think, and your ability to use your own analytical powers. So that's where I think is the difference. I think the talent is there. My only question is, are we nurturing the talent in the right way to be useful to the industry, especially the chemical industry?
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Vikram. Very, very refreshing discussion, and some great ideas have come. I think what I'm taking away is that the talent exists. It's on us to attract them, to communicate what we do better, to attract them, to groom them, nurture them, drive some of the collaboration with the academia, and I think we'll be fine. So thank you. I want to thank all of you for taking our time for this discussion. Thank you very much.